Ladies and gentlemen, look at that beastly machine right there. This right here was created by Scott. Yep. Scott, I want you to hold it because I want you to keep it in the frame. Tell me about this. What made you think of this?
So I wanted to run reed valves on the saw, and the only way I could think to get them onto the saw was to go straight in the bottom. So JB welded off the intake, just cut out a big old hole in the bottom of the bottom clamshell there. JB welded this on there. The only way to get it in there was to cut out the bottom of the saw so it would fit there. I had to take out these the 2 bolts in the back, so it's actually just wedged in there with a piece of wood, so it's pulled in there correctly. It's a carb off of a 660. It's running pretty rich. Hopefully it'll run on the nitrous.
Just a Chinese carb?
Yep, Chinese carb.
Yeah, and this reed setup, this is basically, these are intended for like the bicycle engines, you said?
Yeah, I believe that's what they're for. I just got it on Amazon. It was pretty cheap. It was like 12, 13 bucks.
There you go.
Wanted to try it out.
So that's why I love this class. All right, I've said it before. The Wild Thing has moxie, and that's fun. It's fun. It's pretty junky saw, but who cares? Doing this competition like this breeds innovation, and even though, tell us how it runs.
It does not run well at all. If I can get it to hit on the nitrous, I think I have maybe a chance of doing okay, maybe, but
yeah,
we'll see how that goes.
That's excellent. Just the fact that you have it and you've made it, this is the innovation that we're looking for when doing something different, unique like this, and I freaking love it. I think it's the coolest thing since sliced bread. Even if it doesn't work, I don't care. The idea that it is something is really neat, and that you did it. Coming off the bottom there, that is nuts. But not enough time to test it fully. Maybe next year's iteration will be better. And it's very, very, very cool. Good job.
Thank you.
You got cool points, man.
Shut down the saw there.
Isn't that the coolest little wild thing you ever did see? That was Scott. I hung out with him quite a bit over the weekend. He was right next to me on our setup areas, and I loved it. As soon as I saw that saw, I was like, "What?" I think it was Doug, Indiana Doug, was like, "Bodie, look at that!" And I was just like, "What?" It was very cool that he had it come right out of the bottom there. And considering the Wild Things, and whenever you do something to them, it did run good. He's a little bit too hard on himself, but he had to rig up a spring system and cable to throttle it, and just simply pulling that trigger, it took all your strength. I mean, you really had to squeeze it. But that's what's really cool about, I'll say, the cheap saw challenge. That's what's really cool about that. The problem is they're too cheap, in my opinion. And I know the idea is to test the builders, to see how good they can do. But I think they've been doing it 4 years, I think. I know that they've been doing it for 3. And the 2 years that I competed in it, what I found was out of 20 builders, maybe 10 to 20 builders, only about 2 of them can get them to run right. And that just makes for a situation where it's honestly painful to watch. We had one really fun moment with the 170 this year where Dino Joe runs 3 bottles of nitrous in his with the help of 2 other people. And that was fun, but it doesn't even count because you can't have, it's not a team sport. but we did have that one moment of fun, but other than that, it sucks. It sucks watching them. I mean, that MS 170 was such a pile of junk. And I've already made it real clear, unless they pick a decent saw, I'm not even doing it again. I mean, it's painful to watch. Scott here in this video with his Wild Thing, he ran better than most. Absolutely. And it was still crappy. He's way too hard on himself. He did something that's really cool, and it ran. And it cut without much of an issue. But he was having problems with his nitrous bottle and everything, and such is racing, But anyways, the Wild Thing at least can actually get through and make some cuts. The AMS 170, and if you're watching this video, you don't even know what I'm talking about. It's an event called Sawfest. It takes place every year, and they have a cheap saw challenge. The Wild Thing is going to be the mainstay. I think they're going to keep that around pretty much every year. I know this is the 2nd year in a row that they've had it. I don't know how long they're going to keep it, but watching some of the awful builds are just blatantly awful and painful to watch. So, Scott, you didn't do too bad, buddy. Anyways, but yeah, I just thought that was the coolest Wild Thing. He may not be king of the Wild Things, but he's Joe Cool of the Wild Things. That was definitely the coolest I've ever seen, having it come right off the bottom there. Because it doesn't matter where it comes from. I mean, certain places would promote better flow than others, but I mean, if that crankcase has a pressure drop in it, then the outside pressure will flow right in. And that's the way they work. They don't actually have suction. Everybody thinks that they're sucking in. They don't. If you could block off ports and stuff, could you create suction with that? Yeah, but the ports aren't blocked off. So what it does is it creates a pressure drop. We living in an environment that has 14.7 psi pushing on us at all times. It's pushing everywhere. So when that piston goes up, it creates a pressure drop. It's no longer 14.7 inside that crankcase. And so the outside pressure rushes in. There's a difference between a vacuum and a pressure drop. So anyways, but that's just a little, I just got off on a tangent. I'm always off on that tangent because everybody that says that the piston sucks fuel in, it doesn't. It creates a pressure drop and fuel flows in because it's being pushed in from the outside. But anyways, who cares? I don't. It was a freaking cool Wild Thing. Good job, Scott.